Okay, in this video I want to show you how to use a named range. What you can do is you can give a cell or a range of cells a name, because sometimes it might be easier to remember the name than the actual cell reference or the range reference. Okay, so let's say over here I have this 7%, and let's say that's our tax rate. So I'm going to click on that cell. To name that cell, I'm going to come over to the name box and click in there, and I'm just going to type in a name. Now, the name can't contain any spaces. So if you have more than one word, you can either put the words together or you can separate the word with an underscore, but it doesn't like spaces in the name. Make sure you hit the enter key after you type in the name. Okay, so now that cell is called tax rate. So in a formula, for example, I can just use the word tax rate instead of using N2. It might be easier for me to remember the name tax rate than the actual cell reference. So let me show you how we're going to use this. Let me go, we're going to calculate the sales tax for this row. I'm going to take equals this number, the total, times, and I'm just going to type in that name, the tax rate, equals I4 times the tax rate. And in this case, it did the mathematical calculation. It took the 48,300, multiplied it by tax rate, which is the 7%, and it did the mathematical calculation there. Now let me show you another big benefit of using the named range. I'm going to highlight, I'm going to speed fill this all the way down. Now if I go to these other formulas, notice how they're still using that tax rate. So when we use a name like that, it automatically becomes what we call an absolute reference. So all of the cells are still pointing to that same tax rate over here. So why did I do that? Because now, let's say the tax rate goes up to 8%. I just have to change it in one area, and all of those formulas now have been updated because they're all referring to the tax rate. So we can click on a cell and we can give it a name over here. You can also highlight a range and then click on the name box and give it a name like that as well. Let me show you where you can manage all of your names. If you pick on the formulas menu, you pick on this thing that's called the name manager. Now notice how I have a couple different names in this spreadsheet. So I can pick on one of those and I can change the name down here. I can change the range that it refers to down here. I can add new names here, I can change them, or I can delete them. So that way, this screen allows you to manage all of your names at the same time. So I have another thing in here that's called grand total. I'm going to click on close here. By the way, if you click on this pull down next to the name box, it'll show you the different names. If I pick on grand total, notice how that points to this cell over here. So if I wanted to use that number, instead of using the cell reference I12, I can just use the word grand total. It might be easier for me to remember that. So let me show you another example of a name in a different spreadsheet. In another video we were doing VLOOKUP, so you might want to look up a VLOOKUP if you don't know what that is. But here's a formula that's using a VLOOKUP, and inside the formula I'm using this thing that's called employee data. When I click in the pull down next to the name box, we can see that employee data is this entire range over there. So in my formula, instead of using the range, I can just use the name employee data, and it's the same thing. So that's how we use our named ranges. When you start to look at other people's spreadsheets, many people use the named ranges, and now maybe that's a new tool in your tool belt as well.